Hamadaki Ape Maka Ikilia Hime Chante Washte Nape Chizapilo. Hi, my name is Kevin Kuehler, and I'm a state representative in District 27 in the South Dakota Legislature.
Okay, so Kevin, you have an organization called NYLA. I was wondering, could you talk about the history of that organization and what's the purpose of that organization and what it's supposed to do and function?
Sure. The function of NYLA is basically doing leadership capacity building and just ensuring that we, make sure that we work with young people, because one of the problems going on is, and it's a problem and it's opportunity. And I say opportunity because half of our population on Native communities is under the age of 18. And it's a really unique opportunity in the history of a lot of our tribes to begin to invest in our young people. And it's important that we look at this as an opportunity rather than a problem. And I say problem because we're not doing enough to really start talking about having this conversation. So NYLA is really there to support young tribal college students, and I should say tribal college students in general, because those are going to be the future leaders of our communities, and we need to do all we can to support that development, and through our tribal colleges and through other programs like NYLA and YP4 and things like that. So.
Okay. How many youth have gone through NYLA?
So far, our first class, we have 20 people. We have or I believe 10 members on our steering committee. And so we have about 20 this next year. We're going to have 10. But we're intentional about keeping it small, smaller class sizes, because the capacity of our staff to really work intentionally with those young people needs to be on par with what they need. And the more and more the bigger and bigger we get, and the fewer resources we have, we're not going to be as effective. So that's why we decided to stay smaller. And so I think that's one of the reasons that we need to just look at that and look at forms of NYLA, not just NYLA, but forms of NYLA, to really begin to say, okay, how can we have more programs like these that are started from the grassroots, and for young tribal college leaders who can eventually take over these programs and get that leadership experience that's needed to help them serve, and when they get into leadership positions with their own tribes, maybe 10 or 15 years.
And so, what ages of people have you had, from the youngest to the oldest?
Yeah. I believe our youngest is right now is around 20 maybe, and the oldest we have is 39, and that shows you the range of experience. It's like we have young people who come in at 20 and they don't want to do a lot of stuff, but then we have some of our older members work with them and really begin that intergenerational leadership. And that's what's unique about the way NYLA is structured, is that we have a advisory board made up of elders from various communities such as Hawaii, South Dakota, Colorado, California, just different places, who can sit there and advise our steering committee members, and our steering committee members can kind of pass that down to incoming people in NYLA. So it's just this really unique structure that was modeled somewhat on the leadership councils that we used to have way back in the day. And we had our elders would advise our younger people on what to do for the direction of the tribe, but ultimately it was up to those young people to push that agenda. And unfortunately, we've gotten away from that with the various forms of government and all that. So we need to figure out, how do we get back to that formula? How do we get that for our community so we can solve our own problems? And that's something that we really need to just begin to have that conversation. And so that's why we have a range of an experience of 18 to 35. That's what we say, but we can go a little bit beyond that, depending on what's needed for those community members and that want to get into NYLA, and also where they're at, and what states and all that. So.
Mm-hmm. So in talking about NYLA, you talk about a lot about youth leadership and leadership in general, and talk about going back and then being able to be in tribal politics or in it, whatever, in terms of however they want to serve and pay it forward to their communities. I know your position, you yourself personally are a state representative in South Dakota. Can you talk more about what is that like, in terms of just, there's not that many Native Americans in general in politics that's not tribal politics in the U.S.?
It's a really unique experience, I think, because in my case, I think we're 2 of 70 House members in South Dakota, and and technically we make up 8 to 9% of the population in South Dakota, so we should technically have maybe 7. But my seatmate and I at Ironcloud, we're the only 2 in the legislature, so we represent a lot of other Native communities other than our own. So and that's something I think both of us always think about, and especially me, and just being in that role, you just have to make sure that you ensure that the tribe's interests are as represented as along with the states, and and at the end of the day, if both of them can benefit, as the good representative from Washington, John McCoy, says, if both parties can benefit, then it's a win for everyone. So I think that's the best attitude going with it, and like I said, it's just a unique experience.
Mm. Any last words or any last things that you want to add?
No, I just want to encourage young people to continue to think about leadership and what it means to them and to their tribes and to their communities, and also that just keep staying involved and keep finding people that's going to help mentor you through that whole process, and just like I said, just keep going, keep moving, and keep going forward, keep doing positive things for your communities, because they're going to depend on you, they're going to count on you, and I think that's something that that you have the potential to do. So I think of myself, and I didn't think of myself being in this role, but one thing led to another, and I'm here representing. But I need somebody to come after, and I think that's the biggest thing, is that we need, and half our population is under 18, so we need all the young people we can to get involved in this whole process. So.
Thank you.